Hallo und herzlich willkommen bei den Bretterwissern. Die Bretterwisser, das sind die Sonja,
Hallöchen.
der Arne
Hallo, guten Tag.
und ich bin der René. Guten Abend. So, heute wieder ohne Matthias. Aber wir haben ja letzte Woche schon angekündigt mit einer sehr themenlastigen oder themengebundenen Episode. Denn wir wollen heute über Pandemie oder Pandemic Legacy Season 0 ein bisschen sprechen.
Also ich könnte was über Pandemic Legacy Season 1 erzählen, was wir jetzt nach 2,5 Jahren endlich beendet haben, am Wochenende.
Ja, dann
Das
sag
hast
doch
du ja
mal kurz,
schon
wie es war.
Okay.
Sehr lang.
Ja, 2,5 Jahre wahrscheinlich.
2,5 Jahre. Ich habe durch die Fotos nochmal durchgescrollt, weil ich für ein Video was gemacht habe. War schon sehr lustig, weil ich dort bei einem Arbeitgeber war. 4 Arbeitgeber ago quasi. Es ist viel passiert in der Zeit. Und es ist viel passiert. Nee, war jetzt ein cooles Erlebnis. Ich hatte ja gedacht, die Gruppe hat jetzt die Schnauze voll. Jetzt haben die mich genervt. Jetzt wollen die tatsächlich irgendwas weiterspielen. Und wir werden jetzt Pandemie weiterspielen. Also Pandemic Legacy.
Dann mal ganz kurz so, wie war denn das Gesamterlebnis? Abgesehen jetzt von dem langen Zeitraum, ist natürlich immer schwierig.
Ja, das Ende war so ein bisschen schwierig. Also ich weiß nicht, inwieweit ich da jetzt irgendwie in Spoiler gehen kann.
Du kannst spoilern, glaube ich.
Aber ich fand so, das Ende war jetzt sehr ernüchternd. Es ist viel Story passiert, so in den letzten, auch in den letzten 2 Monaten ist nochmal viel passiert, irgendwie, was die Story so ein bisschen umgebogen hat, irgendwie Pandemie und Heilung und dann doch nicht. Und wir hatten halt das Problem in der Dezemberpartie, also jetzt, Achtung, Spoiler, wer jetzt das nicht hören will, der hört weg. Da muss man ja das Lager finden und das Lager muss man in Atlanta suchen. Und wir hatten das Problem, dass Atlanta bei uns eine Stadt der Stufe 5 ist. Wem das jetzt nicht sagt, das ist eine zerstörte Stadt, also eine höhere Stufe gibt es nicht. Um in Atlanta reingehen zu müssen, du musst halt in diese Stadt rein, um halt dieses Lager zu suchen, diese Suchaktion machen, musst du halt 2 Stadtkarten der gleichen Farbe, also der blauen Farbe abschmeißen. Das heißt, wir brauchten immer unglaublich viele Karten, um erstmal da reinzugehen. Und es ist ja nicht so, dass man jetzt da irgendwie nur noch den sucht, sondern kriegt halt so ein Tableau, wo du halt Karten abschmeißen musst, um dort zu suchen. Das heißt, noch mehr Karten abzusuchen. Du kannst gar nicht so viele Karten ran schaffen, wie du dort abschmeißen musst. Es gibt zwar einen Charakter, der auch in Städte rein kann, egal welche Panikstufe, der musste nur eine Stadtkarte abschmeißen, aber er muss halt auch wieder eine Karte abschmeißen. Den haben wir natürlich mitgenommen und wir haben es dann zweimal im Dezember nicht geschafft, was dann auch für schlechte Stimmung sorgte. Aber trotzdem war die Gruppe so drauf, dass sie jetzt unbedingt irgendwas weiterspielen wollen. Eigentlich hatte ich ja geplant, Season 2 mit dem Göttingen-René, den habt ihr ja hier auch schon mal gehört, zu spielen. Nachdem ich heute mit Matthias, erst habe ich mit René telefoniert, dann habe ich mit Matthias telefoniert, habe ich jetzt den René auf Season 0 umgeleitet und ich spiele mit der anderen Gruppe Season 2 weiter, weil laut Matthias Aussage ist das regeltechnisch ein bisschen schlanker als die Zero, über das wir ja gleich noch wahrscheinlich auch noch mal ein bisschen reden wollen. Und er meinte, für die Gruppe wäre es wahrscheinlich besser, wenn ich da das Zweier spielen würde. Außerdem setzt es ja mit der Story dann für die Gruppe den hinten dran. Oder, ich mache mal Anführungszeichen, ne? Story setzt den hinten dran. Trotzdem war es eine coole Sache und es gab ja auch dann so Aufs und Abs. Also ich habe das dann auch so, wir haben das ja auch noch verpodcastet, es kommt dann auch irgendwann nochmal. Du fängst halt irgendwie so mit diesem normalen Pandemiespiel an. Cool ist es halt, dass Chris das gar nicht so kannte, das Spiel. Das heißt, er lernt halt so, das erste Pandemie ist sein Legacy-Pandemie. Und du fängst ja dann normal an und dann passiert ja so Kleinigkeiten und dann wird es halt immer mehr und es eskaliert ja dann irgendwann im Spätsommer mit dem Tod eines Charakters und. Also das war schon cool und ich glaube, der Gruppe hat es echt gut gefallen und ich finde es cool, dass die da jetzt noch weitermachen wollen. Wir werden das dann irgendwann anfangen, wahrscheinlich im Dezember, weil eine Mitspielerin ist erstmal 3 Wochen nicht da. Und dann sind wir irgendwann 2023 dann fertig. Ich freue mich drauf. Nein, wir versuchen das mal schneller hinzukriegen.
Sehr schön.
Vielleicht absehbar in einem Jahr. Aber ihr habt das doch auch gespielt. Habt ihr da noch Erinnerungen dran?
Also ich weiß, bei Pandemie Season 1 war für mich einer dieser größten What-the-fuck-Momente, als es darum ging, irgendeinen Verräter zu identifizieren. Und es war mein Charakter, den ich gerade gespielt habe. Und ich dachte, what? Und ja, dann war er schon weg.
Ja, und bei uns war es halt Anja, die ja total die schlechte Laune immer, so kooperative Spiele fand die immer doof. Und dann hat sie gerade den Charakter mal für die Partie jetzt sogar genommen und dann ist die halt gestorben und die war total happy und das hat ihr total eine diebische Freude gemacht. Also das war so, okay, also da hat sie dann, glaube ich, auch Frieden mit dem Spiel geschlossen.
Bei uns war eine Mitspielerin die Verräterin und die ist seitdem, in jedem Spiel wird sie als Verräterin verdächtigt. Egal, worum es geht. Erstmal grundsätzlich so, Katrin, du bist doch bestimmt wieder Verräter. Also das hat tatsächlich Nachwirkungen bis heute.
Aber wie gesagt, ich fand das Ende leider ein bisschen enttäuschend. Es ist halt irgendwie du deckst diese letzte Karte des Legacy-Stapels auf, es stehen die Worte, Achtung, jetzt Spoiler, aber das haben wir schon gesagt, es stehen halt die Worte, endlich, es ist vorbei drauf und nichts weiter. Und dann gibt es halt noch irgendwie, ey, so macht ihr eure Punktewertung und dann ist Schluss. Ja.
Ja, die hatten halt schon Season 2 im Kopf.
Ja, das kann natürlich sein. Ich weiß es nicht.
Doch, das war ja schon geplant.
Ja.
Es war trotzdem ein bisschen enttäuschend.
Ja, aber es hat schon seinen Sinn.
Okay. Das werden wir dann wahrscheinlich im Dezember sehen.
Genau. Gut, aber bevor wir jetzt über Season 1 oder Season 2 noch groß sprechen, wir haben, oder beziehungsweise der Matthias hat ja mit dem Rob Daviau und dem Matt Leacock ein Interview geführt. Das war noch vor der Spiel Digital. Und das wollen wir nachher uns dann anhören oder könnt ihr euch dann gleich anhören. Aber wir wollten das Ganze nicht im luftleeren Raum stehen lassen, denn die Sonja hat auch schon, wie viel hast du schon gespielt? 2 Monate?
Nee, 2 Partien, einmal den Prolog zum Reinkommen und dann den Januar haben wir, genau.
Ja, wie gesagt, die Sonja
Morgen
hat das
geht's weiter.
schon angespielt. Ja, angespielt und wir wollen mal zumindest ihren Ersteindruck erfahren. Arne und ich wollen mal gucken, ob wir da noch ein paar dumme Fragen zu stellen können. Und dann wird im Anschluss dann das Interview zu hören geben. Gut. Ja, aber Sonja, dann erzähl uns mal von deinem Erlebnis.
Ja, erstmal würde ich kurz erklären, worum es inhaltlich geht. Und zwar sind wir im Jahr 1962. Es herrscht der Kalte Krieg. Und die Sowjetunion plant, eine Biowaffe zu erschaffen, um den Westen zu zerstören. Und die Spieler sind frisch ausgebildete Mediziner, die jetzt zu CIA-Agenten ausgebildet werden sollen. Das ist so die Ausgangslage. Wir haben wieder eine große Weltkarte vor uns. Diese ist nun aber nicht mehr nur also es waren ja vorher so 4 Bereiche mit diesen 4 Farben. Jetzt haben wir 6 unterschiedliche Bereiche und in jeder Region, diese 6 Regionen, gibt es eben verschiedene Städte und die Städte haben Zugehörigkeiten. Sie sind gehören sie zu den Alliierten, sind sowjetisch oder neutral. Das ist also alles so ein bisschen komplexer aufgebaut. Es gibt auch keine Krankheiten, die wir derzeit, also zumindest zu Beginn gibt es keine Krankheiten, die wir besiegen müssen, sondern es sind Spione unterwegs und wir versuchen uns zu tarnen und die Spione auszuschalten. Das ist erstmal so, worum es grundsätzlich geht. Es fühlt sich vieles ähnlich an, weil es funktioniert halt von den Mechanismen, von den Karten her recht ähnlich. Es hat jetzt alles irgendwie andere Titel, weil es, wie gesagt, eben nicht mehr, also es kommt nicht mehr zu Infektionen, nicht mehr zur Ausbreitung, sondern es sind halt diese Spione, die unterwegs sind. Aber trotzdem ist es doch ein ähnliches Spielgefühl. auch wenn es thematisch ganz anders gelagert ist. Ja, dann also auch die einzelnen Aktionsmöglichkeiten, auch da erkennen wir vieles wieder. Wir sind beim Fliegen ein bisschen eingeschränkter und das hängt nämlich auch mit diesen Zugehörigkeiten der Städten zusammen. Dadurch wird es in meinen Augen auch ein bisschen komplexer und auch ein bisschen unintuitiver, weil es nämlich da auch Unterschiede gibt. Wenn ich eine alliierte Handkarte habe, kann ich mich direkt von überall zu dieser Stadt hinbewegen, muss die Karte dafür nicht mal ablegen. Bei neutralen Städten muss ich die Karte ablegen. In sowjetische Städte darf ich auf diese Art und Weise gar nicht reisen. Und da muss man halt immer genau gucken, wo möchte ich hin. Auch die Übersicht ist in meinen Augen ein bisschen schlechter als in vorherigen Pandemic Legacy Spielen. Einfach weil viel mehr Informationen auf dem Brett zu finden sind. Und vorher hatten wir eben diese kleinen Seuchenwürfel, die man gegebenenfalls auch hätte stapeln können. Jetzt hat man halt so rote Spionenfiguren, die einem einfach ein bisschen die Übersicht nehmen. Ja, ansonsten, wir haben keine Forschungszentren mehr, dafür Unterschlüpfe, die wir bauen können. Wir bekommen keine Narben mehr, wenn wir in der Stadt sind und sich eine Krankheit ausbreitet. Dafür können wir unsere Tarnung verlieren. Das funktioniert auch ganz ähnlich. Bei Pandemic Legacy Season 2 hat ja jeder Charakter so ein Tableau, wo man dann für Namen gegebenenfalls was reinrummeln musste. Jetzt haben wir richtige Pässe, weil es wird wohl später auch verschiedene Charakterausprägungen geben. Eben eine alliierte Identität, eine neutrale und eine sowjetische. Und das finde ich ganz cool gelöst. Da gibt es auch einen großen Stickerbogen, wo jeder so seine Passbilder zusammenbasteln kann. Das hat auf jeden Fall schon sehr viel Spaß gemacht, da seinen eigenen Charakter wirklich zu basteln. Und mit dem Pass wirkt es halt einfach so ein bisschen persönlicher als nur dieses kleine Tableau, was man vorher vor sich hatte. Ja, ein paar Aktionsmöglichkeiten sind halt einfach abgeändert, eben dadurch, dass wir es nicht mehr mit Krankheiten zu tun haben, sondern mit Spionen. Aber vom Grundprinzip ist es ähnlich. Wir müssen halt bestimmte Stadtkarten sammeln. Hier heißt es dann, dass wir Einsatzteams zusammenstellen. Und mit diesen Einsatzteams wollen wir in den Städten unterwegs sein. Auch da gibt es zu jeder Zugehörigkeit verschiedene Einsatzteams, also alliierte, neutrale und sowjetische. Und was wir zumindest jetzt in den ersten beiden Partien versuchen, sind Missionen zu erfüllen. Und dafür müssen wir mit so einem Einsatzteam in bestimmte Städten unterwegs sein und können dann da versuchen, einen Auftrag abzuschließen. Es gibt auch geheime Ziele, da kann es dann auch scheitern, wenn wir das nicht gut genug vorbereitet haben. Und es gibt auch wieder verschiedene Möglichkeiten, eine Partie zu verlieren. Also wenn die Spielerkarten ausgehen oder auch wenn zu viele Vorfälle in einer Stadt gibt, ist es nämlich so, vorher war es ja, dass es zu einem Ausbruch kam, wenn schon 3 Klötzchen in der Stadt waren und noch welche dazu kamen. Diesmal, die Spione breiten sich nicht in angrenzende Städte aus, dafür gibt es sogenannte Vorfälle. Da wird einfach die unterste Karte vom Stapel gezogen und zusätzlich stehen auf diesen Karten jetzt auch immer Vorfälle. Und dann wird einfach der Vorfall vorgelesen und abgehandelt. Der kann auch wieder zu einem weiteren Vorfall führen oder ähnliches. Wenn Spieler in der Stadt stehen, gibt es gegebenenfalls eine weitere Narbe. Dafür kommt die Karte dann aus dem Stapel. Und man weiß eben, dass diese Stadt jetzt nicht mehr kommen kann. Ja, das war es eigentlich so im Großen und Ganzen.
Also wird
zum Spielablauf.
Alles wieder so ein bisschen umgekrempelt. Halt so ähnlich, aber doch irgendwie was anderes wieder rein.
Ja, ich hatte mir auch Watch It Played angeguckt und also die Erklärung, Setup und sowas alles. Und ich fand, es wurden halt mehr Aktionen irgendwie, also mehr Aktionsmöglichkeiten, die du durchführen kannst. Du kannst ja auch dieses Einsatzteam da rumfahren lassen. Das wirkte irgendwie, ja, ich habe es nicht gespielt, ich habe nur die Erklärung mir angeguckt, wirkte sehr befremdlich, dieses Einsatzauto halt da durch die Gegend tuckeln zu lassen. Aber was du ja auch schon sagtest, Sonja, dass mit diesen Pässen und dass es da verschiedene Identitäten geben wird, dass du quasi wirklich als Spion in unterschiedliche Rollen dann schlüpfst, fand ich auch sehr cool vom Setting her.
Mhm.
Und man hat schon gesehen, es ist wieder dieses, du bist dran, du hast Aktionen, danach ziehst du 2 Karten, danach ziehst du den damals dieser Infektionsstapel Karten. Ja, also es fühlte sich vertraut an, aber dennoch doch irgendwie anders.
Genau, und so habe ich es auch beim Spielen tatsächlich empfunden.
So. Hat es denn, wenn du jetzt dem Prolog, das war ja wahrscheinlich nur so die Kennenlernpartie, die bei den anderen ja auch mit dabei war, hat sich das andere denn gut angefühlt, die ersten zwei Spiele jetzt?
Ja, also es hat auf jeden Fall Spaß gemacht. Ich glaube natürlich, dass da auch eine Menge einfach von dieser Vorfreude reinspielt, weil die letzten beiden Seasons so genial waren und man einfach jetzt lange Zeit warten musste, bis es weitergeht.
Nö.
Bei uns war das auf jeden Fall so. Und jetzt, also es wurde schon so ein bisschen gedämpft, eben weil es tatsächlich unübersichtlicher ist und weil man oft, ja, so ein komisches Gefühl, also es fühlt sich, ich hoffe, das wird sich vielleicht noch ändern, aber momentan fühlt es sich noch so extrem unintuitiv tatsächlich an. Auch wenn so vieles bekannt erscheint, ja, es ist noch sehr unintuitiv und ich bin gespannt, wie sich das in der Hinsicht noch entwickelt.
Wobei, war das nicht bei Season 2 auch am Anfang so, wenn ich mich recht entsinne? War das Konzept ja da auch auf den Kopf gestellt wurde?
Ja, aber vielleicht ist es auch einfach, weil es schon so lange her ist, aber da hatte ich nicht das Gefühl, dass es so extrem war.
Ja, du hast halt diese 3 Machtblöcke, mit denen du dann noch wahrscheinlich noch zusätzlich noch agierst.
Ja, also
Ja, aber
sonst war es halt immer so, ich muss nur darauf achten, habe ich hier eine blaue, schwarze, rote Karte, die sammle ich und jetzt muss ich halt gucken, okay, das ist eine Karte von dieser Region. Bei der Aktion ist entscheidend, in welcher Region ich bin. Jetzt muss ich noch darauf achten, ist das eine alliierte, neutrale oder sowjetische Karte. Das fühlt sich im Moment noch ein bisschen komplexer an als zuvor. Aber wie gesagt, kann auch einfach eine Gewohnheitssache sein. Vielleicht gibt sich das auch noch in den nächsten 2-3 Monaten, dass wir hinterher sagen, keine Ahnung, wie wir so empfinden konnten. Das wird sich noch zeigen.
Also nochmal Disclaimer, Prolog und Januarpartie.
Genau. Was ich ganz spannend finde, zwar gibt es, also ich habe ja gesagt, man muss diese Aufträge abschließen, um halt auch einen Monat zu beenden. Und da ist es so, in den ersten beiden Partien hatten wir jetzt immer 2 Aufträge. Und wenn man alle gewinnt, hat man den Monat erfolgreich bestanden. Wenn man bei einer Mission gescheitert ist, kann man immer noch ausreichend den Monat bestehen, darf den mit dem nächsten Monat weitermachen. Und erst bei 2 oder mehr Gescheiterten, dann ist es mangelhaft und dann muss man einmal den Monat wiederholen. Wenn es dann wieder mangelhaft wäre, dann geht man auch wieder weiter. Aber das ist halt auch nochmal ein bisschen alles, dass man zwar nicht komplett erfolgreich sein kann, aber dennoch den nächsten Monat beschreiten darf.
Aber wie hoch sind denn deine Erwartungshaltungen? Oder deine Erwartungshaltung zu Season Zero?
Naja, wie ich schon sagte, also ich fand die ersten beiden Seasons großartig. Daher sind die Erwartungshaltungen natürlich sehr, sehr hoch, weil ich hoffe, dass wir daran anknüpfen können. Und also ich persönlich fand ja Season 2 auch gelungener als Season 1. Und natürlich erhoffe ich mir jetzt, dass ich hinterher sage, ja, bei Season 0 konnten sie nochmal eine Schippe draufsetzen.
Ja, es bleibt spannend.
Hey, Sonja, pst. Hohe Erwartungshaltung, keine gute Idee. Zumindest bei mir nicht. Bei mir geht das immer nach hinten los.
Ja, wohl bei Season 2 hat es gut geklappt.
Also ich finde das Thema Kalter Krieg sowieso immer eine spannende Sache. Aber ich finde es halt auch gerade gelungen, weil wir haben nun mal eben akut gerade diese weltweite Pandemie, die wir alle am eigenen Leib erleben. Und von daher finde ich es auch sehr gut gewählt, dass man hier zumindest zu Beginn, ich weiß ja nicht, wohin sich das noch entwickelt, eben nicht diese Krankheiten bekämpfen muss und nachverfolgen muss, wie sich die Krankheit über die ganze Weltkarte ausstreckt, sondern dass man hier thematisch das ein bisschen anders gelagert hat. Auch wenn es im Grunde trotzdem darum geht, wir sind Mediziner und wir wollen halt jemanden daran hindern, so Biowaffen mit irgendwelchen Viren zu erschaffen. Aber dass diese Krankheit, die tatsächliche Pandemie nicht mehr so im Vordergrund ist. Rein thematisch vom Gefühl her.
Ja, wobei ich schon sagen muss, ich war, als ich dann erfahren hat, dass es jetzt ja nicht mehr weiter in die Zukunft geht, sondern zurück in die Vergangenheit quasi, anstatt Season 3, halt Season 0, war ich schon etwas enttäuscht. Ich hatte gedacht, okay, jetzt geht's vielleicht noch weiter, weil was für mich eines der spannendsten Elemente war bei Season 2, war ja tatsächlich das Entdecken der Karte. Ne? Weil du ja nicht wusstest.
Ey, pst, das ist keine Spoiler, ne?
Nein, du wusstest ja nicht, was sich tut, oder weißt du, wie die Karte sich entwickelt?
Nein, aber du wirst es jetzt hier nicht erzählen, sonst dreht ihr einen Ton ab.
Ja, also in der Mitte des Atlantiks sitzt ein großer Cthulhu, der kommt gerade aus Rillier raus und frisst dich auf, Arne.
Nee, jetzt habe ich deine Lüge enttarnt, weil sonst hätte Sonja es nicht gut gefunden. Ne?
Nein, aber das fand ich halt ein spannendes Element, ne? Sozusagen, okay, wir haben jetzt das nächste Kartenstück hier quasi uns erspielt. Was ist denn da? Was passiert da? Ne? Ist da irgendwas Besonderes oder Sonstiges? Aber da war ich gedacht, schade, das fehlt jetzt hier. Da bin ich halt gespannt auch, wie sich da die Story entwickeln wird. Richtung Kalter Krieg, ob es da auch wieder Überraschungen und sowas alles gibt. Diese Wendungen, die es halt dann gerade in Season 2 gab, die waren schon immer sehr cool.
Ja, aber da bin ich ganz bei dir. Also das war auch so meine erste Reaktion, so, es geht nicht weiter. Aber nur weil es jetzt noch nicht weitergeht, heißt es ja nicht, dass es gar nicht weitergeht. Ja. Ich bin auch sehr gespannt. Matthias hat ja schon irgendwas angeteasert auf das Interview, was hier folgen wird. Aber dennoch finde ich die Thematik Kalter Krieg schon durchaus spannend und freue mich jetzt erstmal, dass es weitergeht. Und bin sehr gespannt, was wir da noch alles erleben werden.
Gut, Arne, hast du noch Fragen, Anmerkungen, Schwank aus dem Leben?
Ich muss gerade noch mal gucken, wo ich das Interview hingesteckt habe. Oh, es liegt doch in Matthias Dropbox. Das ist gut. Nein, also wie gesagt, ich bin da ja gerade so irgendwie so mittendrin und jetzt wird das für mich wahrscheinlich so Ende dieses Jahres jetzt irgendwie noch mal ganz crazy, indem ich mit einer Gruppe wahrscheinlich in Staffel 2 abbiege und mit der anderen Richtung 0. Ich weiß nicht, ob das so eine gute Idee ist, aber mal gucken. Also Matthias meinte auch, nee, das sage ich besser nicht. Aber ja, also mit einer Gruppe starte ich jetzt nach Staffel 2 und die andere geht's.
Sei nochmal angemerkt, du magst ja keine Kampagnenspiele.
Naja, es hat mich im Moment mit mal 2 eher enttäuschende Enden bei den Legacy-Spielen. Also 2 von 2 ist schon eine relativ hohe Quote. Das muss erstmal im Gegenteil jetzt bewiesen werden. Es liegt übrigens jetzt in der Mülltonne, ne? Also für alle Hörer.
Ja.
Ich habe die Plastikteile rausgenommen, in meine Plastikteile-Box oder in meine Spielmaterialbox geschmissen und dann Anja hat sich noch ein paar Teile mitgenommen für ihre Jahreserinnerungschronik und der Rest ist jetzt in der Papiertonne. Sonja, ich kann es dir auch noch gerne zuschicken.
Nee, ich hab's schon.
Du kannst mit unserem Brett weiterspielen.
Ich habe schon 2 Gespielte im Schrank und
noch hast du Platz.
Solange noch
irgendwann.
Platz ist, genau.
Wahrscheinlich wirst du irgendwann umziehen vorher, oder?
Das war ja beim letzten Mal die Lösung. Das ist aber jetzt so schnell nicht geplant.
Irgendwann wird das teuer mit dem weiter immer umziehen.
Mehr Wohnungen dazu buchen.
Gut, aber dann würde ich mal sagen, kleben wir jetzt das Interview hinten dran, beziehungsweise der Arne klebt das jetzt hinten dran. Und dann sagen wir schon Tschüss, wir werden uns nach dem Interview nicht mehr melden.
Matthias wird nächste Woche einen Branchenfunk machen, aber ich glaube, das hatten wir auch schon mal angekündigt. Das habe ich ihm heute noch mal gesagt. Er wird es dann wohl machen, hoffe ich.
Kriegt er schon hin.
Aber viel Spaß beim Interview. PS, das ist Englisch, ne? Aber das habt ihr euch bestimmt gedacht. René hatte keine Zeit, das simultan zu übersetzen.
Nee, ich war anderweitig beschäftigt. Ich musste Filme synchronisieren oder sowas.
Filme. So wie in Polen, wo ein Sprecher alle Rollen synchronisiert.
Ich glaube, ich habe Derek auf Polen nicht synchronisiert.
Oh Gott. Macht's gut.
Tschüss. Bis dann. Tschüss.
Tschüss.
And the first question, of course, is going to Matt. Do you think it's all your fault?
God. We're starting with an easy question. Yeah, nice softball there. Oh man, yeah. When I designed the original game, I guess 12 years ago, pandemic was something that happened to someone else somewhere far away. I thought maybe something like this could happen, but I never really imagined going through it myself. So this has been a bit disorienting.
I mean, we can still say it's only one virus going around the world and not 4 of them.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. Only one strain, not 4. Yeah.
Okay, so we want to talk today about pandemic legacy with giving a full view on season 0. And the question, of course, is why season 0 and not season 3?
That was the publisher's decision, but I think it was a really good one. Season 0 takes place in 1962. Although it's the 3rd game in the series, it takes place first. And there was some concern that people would think that season 3 took place after season 2, like further in the future. And by making it season 0, it very quickly communicates that this is a prequel. It's a start to the story. Yeah, I think it's also somewhat unexpected and kind of attention-grabbing, too. Like Season 0, people were expecting 3, and like Rob said, it communicates very succinctly that this is a prequel.
When did you came up with the idea to make it a prequel?
That was pretty quickly, wasn't it, Rob? I mean, we were looking at what could come after Season 2, and since it's post-apocalyptic already, it didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to go after. I think we were both excited about the idea of trying to tell an origin story or talk about how it all began and go to the beginnings. Yeah, we were halfway through designing season 2, and we sort of paused and thought, how many of these are we doing? And very quickly we said, one more, because they take a long time, and we're trying to tell a story, and we knew that this didn't have 8 games to it or something like that. And when we realized we had one more, we tried to figure out where to put it. And as Matt mentioned, going further in the future didn't make sense, and we ended up in the past.
But just to give an understanding, one more is usually something that Steve Jobs told at the end of each of his presentations. So I guess there will be one more, a 4th season.
No, there will not be. No.
Because you're fed up with designing one?
Fed up isn't the right word. I don't. That's too strong. Yeah, I think it's more like we've run 3 marathons and we'd like a little break. Yeah.
Okay.
We told like a story that we like over 3 different games. We managed to find 3 different core systems to Pandemic that all felt like they went together. I think our concern is a 4th or a 5th one just doesn't get better. They just start to get worse. The story doesn't make sense, or we start to repeat ourselves.
Okay, so it's all effectively a trilogy until you just came out like the Wachowski sisters and says, let's do a 4th one, or Steven Spielberg and doing a 4th Indiana Jones, right?
I guess, never say never, but it's not currently something we're planning. It's not something we're planning, and it wouldn't be soon. And I don't think anyone in retrospect needed a 4th Indiana Jones. Right? I think you have absolutely just proved my point of, We could try to work some Crystal Skulls into it, though, Rob. Okay, that's it. We're ready to go. It's almost done.
Yeah. Oh, great. So one of the old sayings in movies when we are talking about trilogies is the second one is the best because for the first one they're missing the money, and for the third one they're missing the ideas. Which of these 3 games is the second one?
Well, I'd like to think none of them. I think the first one is the most straightforward. But it's the most surprising because people hadn't seen it. I think the second one, season 2, is gives the players the biggest ability to control their game. It tells a darker story, and I think season 0 ties everything together and then finds still new ways to do so. And so it's a fitting conclusion. I wish I could tell you that, one of them is the best, but I really don't think so.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So you want to say they're all your babies and
Yeah.
never decide which baby you like the most?
Don't ask me to choose between my children.
Okay. What can we expect as new in season 0?
Take that, Matt.
Yeah, sure. Well, there's one new thing is that because when you begin the game, you're not fighting disease right away. You have to do other things. So you're completing objectives. And when you complete objectives, you end up creating these covert teams that you use to get things done. And it's sort of like having expanded capabilities. It's a brand new set of tools to play around with as you're playing the game. So it's got some new fun mechanisms in there that make you feel more powerful. I'll just say that right off the bat, because that's the thing that gets me most excited about the game. Some of the new things that make you as a player feel more powerful and effective every game.
Yeah, and one of the things I like in season 0 is we're telling a little bit more of a richer story. We have a separate book, which is a debrief book. It has a Cold War spy thriller feel. And it comes with a book with all these debrief entries, and you will see maybe a quarter to a third, maybe half. I haven't really done the math, but everyone tells you a different piece of the puzzle. So two different groups who play this game will walk away with very different ideas of the story, or
you want
slightly
to say
different.
There's more replayability in it than in the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, I think it might have more replayability. It definitely lets you go back and try some different things. Even in the game itself, if you end up repeating a month because you lost, it's a little more different the second time through than the first time. In previous versions, you just played the exact same thing again.
So I want to lose to see more content.
That's your choice.
It's your game. We're not going to get in your way.
I just asked myself that, for the first 2 seasons, there were 2 different covers. So if I played the second game, I just bought the other cover and I know which box was which experience. But for this season, there's only 1 cover. So I'm surprised that if I want to play it twice, I need to buy the same game twice and don't have 2 covers to choose from.
Well,
you get a Sharpie and write D on it.
That's exactly what I said. You're already writing on things in this game. The cover is part of it.
The cover is part of it. Okay. Then please remember to sign both editions for me.
Okay. No problem.
Okay, so we have Matt, you said that we don't start with any kind of viruses on the table. So effectively, it feels like a different game because also we have the main mechanic of traveling and doing stuff. It's effectively not about a pandemic.
Right. You're medical students who've been or recent medical graduates have been recruited by the CIA, and you're investigating a Soviet bioweapon. So you need to run around the globe and investigate this and try to neutralize these Soviet agents who are threatening to create incidents. So as you're doing that, it's got a different feel because, as you may know, that agents don't actually outbreak and spawn into adjacent cities, right? So we had to come up with a different way to have outbreaks work. So
you could have made all agents bunnies.
Yeah, right. That would have worked really well.
Yes, then they do expand.
Why didn't we think of that, Rob? Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of an outbreak mechanism, instead there's incidents, and those can have chain reactions of a different sort. So there's different effects that happen when those occur.
I mean, my head is again popping up with a movie called 12 Monkeys.
Oh yeah.
Is there some time traveling involved here?
No, there's nothing like that at all. We had to figure out exactly where in the spectrum of spy thriller we wanted to be. Rob and I discussed somewhere on the spectrum between like Moonraker or Get Smart, all the way down to Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and I guess we're somewhere in the middle. Would you say that, Rob? I mean,
yeah, we're comic book actiony somewhere in the middle, right? Like where it's not a documentary. You can't, if you play this game, you're not going to learn deep things about that period in history. It's just kind of inspired by them. We found,
it's certainly not a simulation.
Yeah, when we got too involved with the Cold War politics, the players got a little confused, and when we went too light and silly, players didn't like the story, so we ended up somewhere in the middle.
Okay, so the time traveling comes in the 4th season then.
We thought about it in season 2. Do you remember this, Matt? Not time travel.
Do you mean like jumping from narrative frame? Like you're in one frame, then you're another frame?
Yeah, we were talking about, the game took place 70 years in the future, and
that's right,
in flashbacks like 70 years before. So you had like 2 different boards and 2 different worlds and stuff. And while fascinating, we couldn't make heads or tails of any of that. So we quickly gave up.
So at least try to work even with the backside of the main board.
Yeah, that
was the idea.
That was the idea.
Past. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, given the fact that I mean, all these nice pandemic spin-offs like Iberia, the Netherlands, Italy, they all have awesome elements. That they use the main mechanic from Pandemic, but effectively you don't really work with any pandemic. Especially at the Netherlands, where you are trying to stop water, and in the Rome, where you stop some barbarians. That is some nice twist, and that's something I expect from season 0. To say effectively, maybe we can prevent any pandemic in there at all.
Well, we're not going to spoil the story, but there was the threat of a Soviet bioweapon, so we'll just leave that there.
Yeah, that's said right at the beginning, that you are tracking a Soviet bioweapon and trying to contain, minimize, and verify any information that you can find.
How important was it that you used some real life, let's call it the anti-heroes, like I mean, taking the Cold War theme with US versus USSR, is that something that really felt natural, or is it just something that came to your mind and didn't just go away?
I think it really came along with the genre. I mean, we were making a genre game that followed a lot of the tropes of these Cold War thrillers, and what Rob and I tried to do is inject a lot of uncertainty into it. So part of the fun of watching some of these movies is you don't really know whose side is the good side, whose side's the bad side, whose side you're on, are you doing the right thing, who can you trust? And we try to bake that into the story quite a bit. So the enemy is at the beginning, it seems kind of straightforward, but as you go forward, I think we tried to make things a little more gray, a little more uncertain.
Does it contain some spoilers for season 1?
I wouldn't say it has spoilers for season 1. Would you, Rob? I mean, if you play it, does it spoil it?
No. Some of the things that we talk about, you might read some things and go, I don't know what that means. Like, it's not that you don't understand it, but it's like, it talks about some things that happen it sets up season 1. And if you haven't played season 1, you won't know what they mean. And then if you play season 1 after, you go, oh, that's what that was talking about. So it would work either way.
Yeah, sometimes they're fun to. I mean, I've enjoyed watching sequels before the first movie, because it ends up being a little puzzle as you're trying to figure out what's going on.
Okay. When I mean, after the success of season 1, and you were already working on season 2, and effectively season 3 took 1 year longer than expected, at least from my perspective. Season 2 is 3 years ago. And
yeah.
So I was thinking to myself, what kept you from doing it faster because everybody demands the next season?
Well, it's a combination of things. Doing 1 and 2 were really tough to do that fast, so we wanted to give ourselves more time. It wasn't supposed to be a full year later. It was supposed to be, I think they had talked about like February of this year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so like we were done, not to be for October, but to be just a couple months after, and then COVID hit, and there was just a series of events that sort of, ended up pushing it back here. Another thing is, the publisher really wants to get all the languages out as close to the same day as possible. And so there's just the logistics of worldwide shipping and getting them all into warehouses and getting them into market and giving each country time to get those ready. And when you complicate that with everything going on in 2020, it just added up and it, ended up in October.
I can imagine. So starting with season 1, you had this nice, let's call it arc, that you were playing a full year from January to December. And I was remembering when I watched 24 that the first season went from 0 to midnight, and that was effectively 24 hours. But even starting with the second season, they just started at 9 a.m. or some other time during the day. Have you ever thought starting at a different month in the year?
Not particularly.
I don't think so. We didn't really have a reason to change it up, so it seemed pretty straightforward to start in January.
I mean, effectively, you could use some weather in there as well. At a month with a lot of snow, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. I spent way too much time trying to bring seasons and climate into. I think every season. I'm like, maybe in the summer, it's with heat, and I was looking at climate and seasonal temperatures around the world, and you want to be in Australia here, and I spent hours one day trying to do something, and then went back to Matt and said, no, you're right, it's a bad idea.
So maybe in the fourth one we'll have time travel and weather.
Okay, you heard it here first, guys.
Yeah, that's it. You go back in time and prevent the storm from happening. You get a butterfly to flap its wings.
Awesome. Okay, so did you feel it was a nice linear to say, okay, we stay with the year concept going for 12 months instead just maybe parting even off and say we want to break out because our story needs maybe 2 months more or 2 months less?
No, since we're only doing 3 of them, we didn't feel like the constraints that we had given ourselves, or the system, the architecture we had given ourselves in season 1 really needed to be changed all that much by season 0. If we did a lot more, and we're not, we might start to say, oh, can we just do 6 months, or can we break the scale down to be a week, right? And you're just, or, everything, or hours, or whatever we want to do. But at this point, it seemed like for the last one, some parts that people had gotten used to, we didn't need to change unnecessarily, because it just creates confusion.
Right. Yeah. At the beginning, at the outset, you kind of think about, okay, what's the structure that's really working? And you leave that as the scaffolding and keep that consistent, and then look to see, well, what's really going to move the needle? What needs to change in order to make it more interesting? And what changes provide a lot of value? And I don't think that made the cut.
Okay. What were the lessons you learned from the first 2 seasons that you say, we want to avoid these issues for the 3rd season?
That's a good question.
You get that, Matt?
I'm working on it. Yeah. I mean,
sorry, the sound cut out for me for a split second, so I didn't hear it. But
the question. Oh, go ahead and repeat the question.
What were the experiences you found out in the first 2 seasons where you said we want to avoid these issues for the 3rd season?
I think one of the things that we did that I really like is we created something between winning a month and losing a month. It fit narratively with the whole CIA and, gray area of, who do you trust, in the sense that you can neither win nor lose, but just get a good enough. We created another setting in between, which is you didn't really do everything great, but you did it good enough, and we're going to move you on to the next month. And that minimized the number of times that people played a month. I think as more legacy games came out, people wanted to maybe make their campaigns a little bit shorter, and they didn't always enjoy playing the exact same month again. So we tried to mix that up a couple different ways.
And I don't want to say it was a mistake, but I mean, I think we did fine tune the way we gave funding to people. So we adjusted that a little bit. This is the number of event cards you get at the beginning of every turn to account for the number of players in the game. So we improved that a bit. As far as mistakes, I think it was like trying to get designs on the table in front of other players sooner rather than theory craft them for a long time and then realize they weren't working. But we were pretty good about that in the first 2 seasons. So
yeah, there were some things that we tried in the first season that we've changed in the second, and some things we changed in the second that we might have changed in the third, like adjusting for player count, but they're fairly subtle things.
Yeah, pretty minor. Yeah.
Usually we were doing big systemic changes. Like in season 2, you start with a board where you can't see most of the spaces and you have to discover it. Like, we're not doing that again.
For me, the bigger change for second season was like that I don't try to remove stuff, but bring stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you think the third season is, if you don't want to frustrate the people too much, do you think the third season is easier than the first 2 seasons?
I think the structure is more familiar. So when you begin the game, it's not entirely dissimilar from Pandemic. So you should be able to get into that first game relatively quickly. But it's not as, I mean, the second season is very open and expansive and it's very experimental. And the third one, I think, is different in a way where we, like Rob was saying, we bring in more story and it's more of an adventure and less about we're really going to rock your world here. And so I think to some extent it'll feel comfortable, but also different in an interesting way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since there's a new place in the game where you can neither win nor lose, we wanted to put you in a place where you might have to decide some things, like we could try to win everything, but we might lose. Or we could basically try to not do everything, kind of win, but now we have to pick which one of these we're not going to do. And that creates some interesting narrative decisions as well as sort of, mechanical decisions.
Talking about the narrative, do you got some assistance this time for writing the story? I mean, I think one of the key aspects is for the first 2 seasons was you had your story, you were trying to tell that story, and you railroaded the player through that story, which felt awesome. But effectively, the writing was on the lower end and the mechanics were on the higher end. Did you try to maybe get somebody in who makes to put more writing, more flavor, more stuff to read during the game in there? Or did you say that was too distractive and just prolonged the game too much?
Well, Matt can tell you, I have no problem writing a lot of stuff. So the decision in season 1 and 2 to write a little bit was because we felt like the game just needed a little bit. For this game, when we did the debrief book, we wrote all of that, but then someone at Z-Man came in as sort of a developer editor and worked on doing a normal editing pass, just like you would expect with any sort of writing, that you want as many people in the creative process as possible to give their opinion. So we did write more, and then after it was edited.
Okay, so there will be a director's cut version soon.
No, I don't even know.
No.
I don't
we were
even
very
have,
involved in the editing. So
yeah, we were involved with the editing. It wasn't like someone said, we changed this and this is too bad. They said, do you mind if we change this? And we got on phone calls, and some of it was just cleaning up the language or saying things in a slightly different way. We were involved with everything and signed off on it all.
yeah, and there is more story in season 0. There's like narrative payoffs when you completed objectives, generally speaking, at the beginning and ending of each game. So there is more to read. We just want to make sure it was meaningful and made sense when you're reading all of it. And so it's got a game purpose. We didn't want to have any story in there just for window decorating or window dressing. It's all really to paint a picture in the player's minds as to what's going on and create some uncertainty in some cases.
You mentioned tropes you were using. Do you also have some Easter eggs?
I'm sure there's some in there.
I remember a whole bunch of them that were written in at some point. Not a whole bunch, a handful, but I couldn't tell you what they are now. It's been a year and a half.
Yeah, I understand that. So since when you are already off that project for 1.5 years, so you effectively feel the need to work together again?
Well, we have.
Yeah, we've worked on a little project. We'll see if that ever, goes anywhere. It's not a need. I like working with Matt. It's more of an interest. Mm-hmm. I think we'll work together again.
Yeah, okay. I'd like to find another project at some point.
Yeah.
Like Pandemic, the 4th season, Star Wars, where the players are the rebellions going through Z-Man is part of the Asmodee group. They have some Star Wars licenses.
You seem very good at pitching projects that we're not going to do. That seems to be a big skill of yours. I've done quite a few Star Wars games. I have enjoyed it, but this is not going to be one of them.
So I need to talk to somebody else to push you. I see. Okay, so when the players open their season 0 box, and will they see a sticker reminding them, please do not lose to open, otherwise you get some nice goodies?
I don't remember.
Do they see a sticker
like a note?
Open up all the boxes?
Yeah.
In season 1.
Yeah, season 1.
There's a flyer in there that says, warning, be careful, don't just open it.
Yeah, there was, take the sticker and put it onto box number 8.
Oh, right, yeah. No, I don't think we have a sticker like that, but we definitely have a warning flyer, not to just go opening all your presents.
Yeah.
In season 2, you had some of these stickers, and we were terrible people. After we finished the campaign, we ripped up everything and see what did we miss. And there were so many effectively red herrings that we just looked, there was never an intention to even get this thing opened because there's nothing under that.
Yeah, we had a little extra room on the dossiers, and so I think Rob and I had too much fun making little motivational posters and stickers for the Haven leadership. That probably made no sense to anybody, but it really cracked us up.
Yeah, we were talking to ourselves.
Yeah.
Nice. And it went through editing.
Yeah.
Everyone basically thought it was funny as well, but it's a pretty subtle joke. If you do a lot of meetings in America, right, there's a lot of inside sort of jokes there.
Okay, not all of these jokes are there that the customer understands them. So, Ben, what was the biggest issue during development of season 0?
What was the big one?
I'm trying to think if we ran into any dead ends.
It wasn't that we ran into dead ends. It's that we had done this twice before, and we really wanted to make a third game that felt new. So we would basically get an idea and go, oh, we did that in season 1. Or we would get a different idea, like, well, we kind of did that in season 2. So we were making sure we did something fresh and new. And it wasn't like an issue. It just, maybe made us dig a little deeper for some ideas.
Yeah, I think that was the major struggle, is just trying not to repeat ourselves. And that's part of the reason why we look at doing additional seasons with some definite trepidation, just given how hard it was to get this one done, how much of a challenge it was to make this one feel fresh.
Yeah, this was the first one where we felt like, ooh, okay, we've done a lot of these ideas, and this has to be normal. If we started a fourth one, which we're not, I honestly would be like, I don't know where to start, right? Like, I don't know what story we need to tell or what ideas we haven't already come up with. And that would take a very long time to make a game that we could get behind.
Okay. So when you remember working on the first 2 seasons, was there any certain time where you said, oh, screw you, I hate working on it?
I don't remember this, but my wife does, I think. So I think there were certain points where you get stuck and get frustrated, but it's generally just kind of powering through it. So I don't think there's any point where there was despair or anything like that. It's just, when you're working on a long multi-year project, it can get to you sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Every game I work on, at some point I say, why did I start working on this? I actually remember both pandemics being, or all three of them, being less so, right? I think what you do is you get to a point near the end and you need to revise the entire thing and send it out for playtesting and then watch a lot of video. And you just know it's going to be a lot of time, and you're sort of tired. As Matt said, it can be a marathon, and you're thinking, oof, okay, the right thing to do is to do all this carefully one more time. But mentally, I've been doing this for 14 months, and the natural tendency is to say, it's good enough. And luckily, Matt and I are good at pushing each other to say, it's probably not good enough. We need to do this. And then the other person goes, okay, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be rough when you're like, you commit yourself, okay, this is the last one, and it takes you a day and a half to build a prototype, and you send it out, and you realize, okay, we have to do another round, and you have to psych yourself up into doing that whole sequence again. It's a lot of manual labor and a lot of effort and time for each one of these iterations.
So it helped that you were in there together and not one on you alone.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yes, I can't imagine. I cannot imagine trying to
I cannot.
No.
If Matt said, "Oh, I don't want a season 4, but you can do it," Rob, and Z-Man said, "Oh, we really want it," I would be like,
"No way."
No. Yeah, that makes it even more of like a no.
Okay. So the question then is, why don't you both design more together with other people?
Because we had these 3 big long projects that took us a combined total of 6 years. And then, as I said, we kind of worked on something else that we'll see will come into something. So really, right now, after this launches and maybe at the beginning of next year, would be the first time that I go, oh, hey, Matt and I have some free time, or at least I do. They just take a while because these games take anywhere from 15 to 24 months, and then we take a little break in between. So we have worked together more than not for the past 6 years.
Yeah, I think it's just a question of like catching our breath for a little bit and then seeing what opportunities come along.
Okay, but I mean, outside of Pandemic or any legacy game, could you both imagine working with just any other designer in a duo? I mean, Wolfgang Kramer made a lot of games, and he also made he won with Ulrich, and he won with Kiesling, and he worked with several other people, and even Kiesling worked with other designers. So both of you are looking. I mean, Rob, you worked with some designers on some stuff, like you worked, I think, on Machikoro Legacy, and
Death May Die.
Death May Die with Eric Lang, correct? But Matt, you're looking more like you're working more for yourself.
I'm not sure that's true. I think I've worked more with a co-designer than not, actually. I mean, I've worked with Tom Lehman and all the expansions. Each of the different Pandemic variants, like you mentioned, Iberia, Rising Tides, Fall of Rome, those are all done with a co-designer, all from different countries. So Yeah, I really enjoy working with a co-designer. That's something I seek out actively.
Yeah, I'm spending a lot of time with my publishing company, Restoration Games, these days, and we're managing a line of 3 to 6 games a year, and we have, including myself, 4 members of the design team. So I'm pretty regularly working on teams of 2 to 4. I'm working on another game now that's just starting up with a I don't work on many solo games by myself anymore. I actually like talking to people, and it helps me design better to talk and think and shoot things back and forth. If I'm sitting quietly at my desk, my brain can do it, but it's not the most optimal way.
You can call me anytime. I can give you some input for the 4th season, you know? Okay. You were talking about playtesting. I mean, when I remember when you were explained how you playtest the first season, with the people just got a box and had to film themselves, and you were watching that effectively on twice speed. That sounds really, really exhausting to watch all these videos.
Yeah, that's about right. It's not always at 2x speed either. A lot of times we have to slow it down to really see what's going on. But yeah, we watched I think over a couple hundred hours of video for just season 0 alone. Each season I think had more video than the previous one.
Do you keep? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot, and that's one of the things that makes this not tiring, but where you need to maintain focus, because what you don't want to do is put on a video and then 40 minutes go by and you go, I haven't been paying attention at all. I've been lost in thought. So there's a lot of breaks, when you realize, I've just missed a minute, pause, walk around, come back. So sort of towards the end of a big video watching marathon, at least for me, I'm doing it in like 5 to 7 minute chunks, take a 2-minute break and then go back. So it takes a while.
How many playtesters did you have for season 0?
Just one. No. It was a guy I know and he played it.
How many zeros were after that one?
Not as many as you think. Legacy games are really benefit, I think, from qualitative testing, where you get fewer groups, but you watch every second of it, than trying to get dozens and dozens of groups that you get a little bit of data.
Yeah, I mean, rough order of magnitude, I think we probably did about a dozen iterations, and maybe there was a total of a dozen groups somewhere in there, plus or minus.
I mean, in theory, after a group played, that they are burned for the next round, aren't they?
There's some groups that we could go back to. We have some that really trusted groups that we can show something pretty raw to, have them play early on, and then show them something much later in the process. And by that time, they've forgotten a lot of it, or so much has changed that it's not too bad to go back to.
But they still remember the rules at the end of a game they got taught at the beginning of the game.
Well, when we send out a prototype, they're getting the full whatever we have at that point. So they'll play that whole sequence. It's not like we're feeding them one game at a time, if that makes sense. So they'll have the entire rule book. It'll all be in front of them.
Yeah, the early games we just send out, say, January through March to a couple groups and get some feedback, and then we revise it. We send different groups, get maybe just January through March again, or maybe we get to April or May. Mm-hmm. And it keeps going. Each group gets a little bit further down with revisions to the earlier stuff. So a group that played maybe just January through March, we might go back at the end and give them the full year to play, because it's probably been over a year and enough rules have changed that it's different to them. Or a lot of them are friends and very good playtesters. They don't mind playing it, even though they kind of know. And they'll be surprised what they remember. They go, oh, that's changed. And, oh, this part of the story is different, even though it's been a year.
Okay. How many little helpers did you have to print and play all these files?
Matt is my helper.
I think my daughter helped out sleeve a little bit, but yeah, a lot of it's just done by Rob and myself, and she helped a little bit too. Right?
Yeah, my wife works with me, and so she will help. she and Matt are very organized, and I'm very, this looks right. And, so she will find things that I wouldn't. Matt does have a laser cutter, which you got somewhere around season 2, which really helped in this last season because Matt can print off what will be cardboard pieces and stickers with the laser cutter and send them to me. And then sometimes I do all the other stuff and send him his half, or he sends it to me and I put together the rest. And then, so we've got these different systems where we're each doing half, although I always feel like Matt does a little more.
Being able to cut those stickers on the cutter has been pretty game changing for me. I do not miss scoring stickers with an X-Acto knife all day.
Yeah.
So when you sleeve the cards, how many people had issues tearing up sleeved cards?
I don't think that was as big of a problem with the prototype.
Yeah, no one tears them up. We just say they just put them in an envelope or a box.
Okay.
They're professionals.
Okay, yeah. So anything you expected me to ask you regarding season 0 that you are missing?
I think there's the question, can you play it first? And I think Rob and I would encourage you to try it out if you want to jump into the series. Season 0 works well as the first game. It doesn't have to be. Season 1 works just as well.
Yeah, the only thing I say is don't start with 2. Both because it's the last one chronologically and probably the one that requires a little bit more of having played one of the other 2 first.
So I can play season 0 and then season 2?
You can play, it doesn't make a lot of sense narratively, but it's your decision. 2 really feels good at either in the middle or at the end. But if you haven't played many pandemic games, then you might want to start with season 1 because that one is the closest to pandemic. If you have played pandemic games but none of the legacy, you could start with 0 or 1.
Which of the 3 seasons you think is your best one?
You said that before.
Yeah, but okay. Let's rephrase it.
My bias is always the one I've worked on most recently because you have to really love what you're working on when you're working on it to create a great product. And so I hold 0 close to my heart. I think saying any one of them is better than the other is tough for me, but I do think that 0 came out really well.
Do you have an issue when players say they like one season more than the other?
No, of course not.
I mean, season 1 made it to the top ranking at BGG, and season 2 didn't manage that. Was that
It's kind of hard to pull off.
You're
gonna, we were really aiming for.
you're gonna have a very disappointed life if every game you release is you expect to get to number 1 at BGG.
Yeah.
That's true. But I mean, at least season 1 was nominated for Spiel des Jahres. Season 2 wasn't nominated, but won a special prize. Do you want to win season 0 some prizes as well?
Oh, I have no expectations for such a thing. I try never to have expectations around that.
Again, if you're designing for prizes or you're designing for ranking on BGG, then I think you're not designing for the players to have a good game. And if you make a good game for players, then you just hope that some of the rest of the stuff follows. But I don't expect any of my games to ever be nominated. And when they are, I'm like, well, that was nice. You're not going to all have number 1 hits. And the fact that I was nominated and won, a Spiel, it was just, never something I never expected. So getting 1 or 2 is more than I ever expected. I'm good. Not that I'd say no to 1, but I don't expect it.
Yeah, the special prize was a wonderful surprise after going to Berlin, I think 4 times. Being awarded that up front and not having to worry if I was going to win or not was even better.
We were so relaxed.
Yeah.
Right? Because the first time before season 1, I'm saying to Matt, is it always this nerve-wracking? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, oh, and I didn't sleep. Knowing we were getting a prize ahead of time, we could see the city, we could just have some food and drink. It was very nice.
And you got that trip before COVID hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years before, I believe.
Yeah. So, but you still wouldn't say no if you get nominated again.
Of course not.
I would not refuse it, but by no means am I expecting it to be nominated for anything.
Right.
So when you say you're not going for prizes, which I totally understand, you're working for the players. Are you happy? Are you sad if a game doesn't resonate with the players at all? I mean, I'm not want to talk about Seafall or however you want to call it.
I call it Seafall.
Yeah, some call it Seafail. That's what I meant.
Oh no.
Oh, I get it.
I mean, also, Matt, you also had one or other game that didn't really took that off. Is that
Oh sure, yeah, plenty of games like that, right? Is it what? Is it
heartbreaking?
It's just a little disappointing. I mean, you want the games to really resonate with people and them to do great. And I think for every one of them, I only take on a project if I'm excited about it. So if I'm excited about it and it just doesn't do anything, it's disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've had a number of projects. I mean, I probably put 100 games into market over 22 years. Some don't work. At the time, you always think, you hope that it finds its audience and it works. And the thing about Seafall is there are I designed it for a smaller group, and a number of people from that group have reached out to me to say how much they liked it. But there are a lot of people who played it because of season 1, who I never designed it for. And I would have said, I don't think you're going to like this game. And then they played it anyway, and they didn't like it. That said, it could have been better. It needed a development pass and there were a lot of things wrong with it, but every game is someone's favorite game, and it resonates with someone. You just, sometimes it's not as many people as you like.
Season 1 had some interesting character developments where I remember quite fondly where we had to tear up a character because he was a traitor, and we were missing him because he had some of the very important stickers on him. And season 2 had an interesting, more developing the world and less talking about the characters, which felt like tucked on and you need to rub some stuff off. But effectively, it wasn't that about the characters, more about the world. Will season 0 be more about characters again, or just more about world?
There's plenty of character development in the game. I mean, a lot of it takes the form of each player has a passport, so you carry the same character throughout the entire campaign, or you can anyway. And the characters actually become more multifaceted because you develop separate aliases for them as you continue down through the story. So my sense is that people get more attached to their characters. You get to add disguises to them. You get contacts and assets, and so they're much more robust, I'd say, than the other two.
Is one of them getting some game designer traits?
Not yet. No, you'll save that for the sequel.
Yeah.
I hoped for some nice, maybe some fair gimmicks, some giveaways that can be tacked on
to the game.
Yeah. I mean,
there's a lot in every one of these legacy boxes.
So no goodies on top, you say?
Well, I don't know. Maybe Z-Man will come out with some special disguises or something.
That's up to Z-Man. And I think there had been some stuff planned at conventions that couldn't come to pass because of COVID. Yeah. There was the world changed out from underneath us. So anything that had been planned was changed. I know the whole marketing plan changed and the release, date changed and everything like that.
So no Rob or Matt disguise?
No, not this time.
No.
Okay. So given that we are getting almost to the full hour, I want to propose you a last idea for a next season. Maybe you can.
You're just going to keep pitching ideas.
I keep pitching ideas. Correct. So you didn't go for Star Wars. Maybe you go for Doctor Who. So you have time travel in there and some science fiction and a lot of characters you can work on. You can mix all the different doctors from different timelines.
Is that working for you?
Yeah, no. I mean,
it's not
just not going to happen.
Okay.
You tried.
I tried, yes. Yeah. So I have to say, thanks for your time. You were awesome to talk to, and I hope you enjoyed that hour as well.
Thanks
for having us.
Great. Anything you want to tell our listeners in Germany?
I just thank everybody for playing the games.
Yeah, thank you to all the people who've played the games over the various years. It always means a lot. It's a type of job where, Matt and I make something, and we started in 2016, and then 4.5 years later, people play it, but we don't always see it and we don't always hear it. So it's always nice when, knowing that people are playing it, and when the world fixes itself, getting to see people play it and talk to them.
Okay, so if the people want to reach out to you, they can through Twitter, Facebook, stuff like that?
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
So just push your handle out here so the people know how to reach you.
Yeah.
Mine is Matt Leacock. Not too hard.
Mine is Rob. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say you can find me at leacock.com as well.
Yeah, and mine is Rob Daviau on Twitter, and you can find me at robdavio.com.
Ooh, that both very, very complicated addresses.
Yeah.
Little on the nose.
Remember, season 4 is Where's Waldo? Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Mix up with Rob and Matt, finding the designers. All right. Thanks for your time. And enjoy your free ride when the game hits the shelves and a lot of people will play it, and hope you get a lot of great reviews. I look forward to playing it. My group is set up. I guess we will play it in 3 days max.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
That's how long it took us for the first 2 seasons each. So
okay. It comes out October 23rd.
Great. Today is October 13 for everybody listening. I mean, we will not air it today, but that's 10 days. Nerve-wracking 10 days.
Ooh, 10 days. This is getting real.
Yeah. You're all prepared for the show? You have your travel bag ready for Essen?
Yeah, I don't really pack a bag a year ahead of time.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for your time.
All right. Take care.
Bye.